top experiences so he could get motivated to go do good stuff. He had true goodness, that fruit of the Spirit kind of goodness that does good without an ulterior motive and without any hope of gain. Oh, everybody around him could look at him and see the results of his goodness, but where was God looking? On the heart, the motive behind the goodness. This leads me to ask you again, who's in charge of your household? Who or what is God in your household? Is it someone or is it something? Ultimately, only 8 people got on the vessel. Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives. Now that tells me he prepared his family. And you men, and even women, single mothers, prepare your families. And if the Lord tarries and doesn't come in this lifetime, then they'll pass the stories on. That's what we're supposed to do. But I believe it's my generation that will see the coming of the Lord. Why do I believe that? Because God said it's the generation that will see Israel reborn as a nation. When did that happen? 1948. It's the generation that will see Jerusalem back in the hands of Israel. That happened in 1967. It's the generation that will see the Jews going back to Israel from all over the world. And for the first time, there's more Jews in Israel than anywhere in the world. They've come back from over 100 countries. They're speaking 83 languages over there. The Bible says in the end of days, scales will fall off of the eyes of the Jews. They will recognize the Messiah. These musicians were all Jewish. In these certain last days, God's eye is on his people. Again, the eyes of God are moving to and fro upon the earth to show himself strong on behalf of those whose hearts are strong toward him. So let's look at the ark and learn from some archaeologists the feasibility of such a vessel. All right, the ark. It was made of gopher wood. It was to have rooms. It was to measure 300 cubits by 50 cubits wide by 30 cubits high. Now, if you're like me, you don't know cubics. That's 450 feet long by 75 feet wide, 45 feet high. Now, these are not oblique figures. These are very specific measurements. There was to be one door, one window above in this 3-story structure. The entire ship was to be covered with pitch like a tar substance inside and outside. Now let me help you try to get a realistic view of this ship. First of all, as I've said, this is not a myth. This is not a legend. These measurements are precise, and this was the largest wooden-hulled vessel of its kind until the launching of the Wyoming in 1909. Hydrodynamic tests have shown that its length-to-width ratio of 6:1 have proven this vessel would not have capsized even in the most violent of storms, wind, and waves. It had 1,500,000 cubic feet. It was the size of 21 standard basketball courts. It was as long as 522 standard railroad cars. This ark could carry the same load that today it would take 295 of Boeing 747-400s, great airline freighters, to carry. Folks, this was not the good ship Lollipop. This was a mammoth, great ship. It was perfection, and it was safety itself. And this can only remind us of the one who is perfection and who is safety. Inside the ark were animals and supplies for the humans and the animals. The animals came 2 by 2. The unclean ones, 7 of the clean. And there was a male and a female so that they could propagate and continue their species. People say, well, what about the dinosaurs? And all that? Well, they didn't have to be full grown. They could have been baby dinosaurs and baby elephants and baby rhinos. All right, this leaves 70% of the vessel just for the people and the supplies. There's no doubt this vessel was large enough to carry the intended cargo, and in like manner, there is ample room in Jesus Christ for all who would come to safety from the storm of the fire that is to come. I could go on for hours about all I learned from these archaeologists, but time's not going to let me do that. All right, we know there was 120 years of warning as Noah built the ark. Then he gave him 7 days, a 7-day warning. I guess in sports that's like the 2-minute warning. All right, they got the 7-day warning. And I've always wondered, other than that 7 was a number of perfection. Remember great-grandfather Methuselah? Methuselah's name means when he dies, judgment. See, Enoch, when he named his son, knew about the flood. So he named his son Methuselah. When he dies, judgment's coming. Methuselah died 7 days before Noah, that door was shut on that ark. And in the traditions of that time, they took 7 days to grieve. God was gracious and let them have their 7-day grieving period. And then they got in the ark. On the 2nd month of the 17th day, embarkation begins. The fountains of the deep were broken up, it says, and the windows of heaven were opened. This had to mean